Okay, great. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending our Shoutout Saturday event today, where we'll be highlighting Headspace Engineering Manager Swapna Savant, guided towards a topic as being intentional about career growth as an engineer. I do want to let everyone know this event will be recorded, as we do plan on taking screenshots for social media or anything like that. So if you want to remain anonymous, I suggest using your first name and keeping the video off. All right, so for our agenda today, we're going to start with our introductions, and then the main session is going to be questions we have for Swapna and an opportunity to ask your questions, which you can put in our Slido. Let's see if we can maybe put that in the chat there so you could ask any questions. And then, so let's move on. Okay. And so just kind of like a reminder, like Women's Code's mission is to inspire women to excel in technology careers, and our programs are designed to support women in being and becoming leaders in the industry by providing tools, opportunities, and inspiration to fuel professional success. And we are growing. We've reached to more than 120 countries with a network of more than 230,000 technical women. And just want to let you know that Women Who Code is dedicated to providing an empowering experience for everyone. So, we want to just make this inclusive, and if we value the safety and security of our members, and we strive to have an inclusive community. So we don't tolerate any harassment of any members or event participants in any form. If you would like to read the full version of our code of conduct, please feel free to visit the link displayed. All right, so let's get started. Swapna, are you ready to start?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and introduce you. So Swapna Savant is an engineering manager at Headspace, currently leading the engineering teams responsible for expanding the platform capabilities for Fortune 500 companies and enterprise partners. She has 13 plus years of industry experience in building large-scale systems and high-performing teams. She holds a master's in computer science from the University of North Carolina. She started her career with multinational companies and later decided to move to startups to feed her creative mind and have a significant impact on the success of the business. She grew from an engineer to technical lead to engineering manager and worked in various product domains and technology stacks. She is highly passionate about improving diversity and inclusion in tech and is associated with Lean In circles. When not working, she likes to spend time hiking and exploring different places with her husband and their dog. Thank you again, Swapna, for joining us and being a part of our Shout Out Saturday series. We do appreciate your time. So
Thanks
again, sorry. No problem. We're so happy to have you. So our theme is all about intentional about career growth as an engineer. And so we'll dive into our first question. So first question, how do you prioritize which experiences to pursue when there are few or several or many options that interest you?
Yeah. So before I answer any questions, right, first I wanted to say, thank you for having me here. I'm honored. And the way I'm going to approach all these questions are about my experience, my perspective of how my journey went through. Again, every single individual have their own experience, and from that experience, they might have a different perspective. Now, going back to your question, Dan, like how do I prioritize the experiences to pursue? When I was beginning my career, my favorite quote was to aim for the moon, and if you will even miss that, you might land among the stars, which is a win. But now, in the course of my journey, I have come to an understanding that success is a progressing realization of a worthy goal that you might have. Having said that, what I have started doing is I have started categorizing my development goals, I would say. One of the goal is like those things that I want to personally work on to drive my growth and development. And the second piece is the ones that are aligned to my organization. So their objective goals, their key results, and how I can help my company grow also. And then whenever I have any task in my mind, I try to put them against my goals. And if I'm not able to, then depending upon the situation, I either politely say no, or most of the time I'm able to delegate it to someone whom I feel might benefit from it. For example, when this opportunity of being here with all of you came to my, when I saw that email from you, that really excited me because that also fit into my personal growth of one of the piece or one of the objective that I have been working on in this quarter is to influence people outside my organization. So for me this particular opportunity was more like, if after this conversation anybody feels that, or if I'm able to help somebody grow in their career, that's a win for me. And that's how I actually even thought that, okay, this is a great experience for me too. So any task, I always have a running document. I call it like one-on-one with myself. And I always talk about all the tasks that I have, all the opportunities that I get, and try to bucket it in all these goals that I have.
I like that. It really sounds like you try to set yourself up for trying to get the best possible experience.
Yes.
Is there anything additional that you do that helps set yourself up for those experiences even more?
I have started, again, this is something that I have realized, and I have started reaching out to people now. Earlier, I used to wait for the opportunity. Now, my whole goal is always like, what I can do. Is there any feedback that I can get from somebody, or is there somebody from? I'm again going to take this woman who code, right? Is there anybody? I always am active in the Slack channel. I will keep looking and I will keep seeing if there is anything coming up there that might actually fit into my goals that I have, and I never shy away from reaching out.
Well, that's great. I like how you try to stay connected with the networks that you do. I really like that. That's really, I think in these times, I think it's good to try to stay connected. I mean, that's, my opinion, but I'm glad that you do that. So in terms of, being intentional with your career growth, especially switching from an engineering role to management role, like what were the steps that you took to get to that?
Yeah. So the very first thing is when you're trying to be intentional about your career growth, be it engineering, be it management, the very first thing is always think about where you want to go next. What is that next role? Yes, you should always have a 5 year plan for yourself, but you should also have a short term plan of what is that next role that you want to do, and make contacts accordingly. Like start looking at LinkedIn and search for people who are already doing that role and try to connect with them. And when I say try to connect with them, this is something that I have done in my past and I have failed. And then I realized why I was failing is when we say connect with those people is not just sending them a LinkedIn invite, because most of those LinkedIn invite might not get accepted, because why would it be? Always try to somehow, if possible, try to find their email. If not, send a message in LinkedIn, research that person, try to understand what they are passionate about, what is it that connects you both, and try to make an appeal of why you are trying to connect with them. And most of the time I can guarantee you that people out there are ready to help, and that they will definitely have that conversation with you, trying to understand your goals and trying to give you an insight of how they reached there. Because usually it is very important for us to understand that if you want to go to that next goal, for example, for me, when I was an engineer and when I wanted to become an engineering manager, I had no idea of how to make that move or how to make that switch. It is after talking to people who were already made this switch, made me realize that what are the things that I'm missing, or what are the things that I need to work on. And after doing all of these things, the next thing that I feel is very important is to be very vocal and explicit in what you're looking for. Do not expect your manager or even your colleagues or anybody whom you're talking to know what are your goals. Even if in your mind it might be like, oh yeah, I'm an engineer, the next jump for me is an engineering manager. That's not necessary. Not everybody wants to be an engineering manager. Some of them might want to be an architect. You have to be very vocal about it in your one-on-ones, in your discussion with your managers. You need to be explicitly mentioning it, asking for feedback of what are the things you can do. And it is, as I mentioned earlier also, right, I have like a one-on-one document which I say one-on-one with myself. Always have a monthly check with yourself of what are the things, what were your goals, what are the things you achieved this month. And it is totally okay if there is nothing that you achieved this month, it's totally fine. But the moment you keep on doing this monthly check-in, there will be a point in your life that you will realize that, oh, for the past 2 or 3 months I didn't do anything. Maybe it's time for me to step up and make some change in myself, or make some, you know, achieve some goals that I have. Or there might be you are continuously doing something and not getting anywhere. That might be the step where you might take a step back and say that, okay, this is not helping me. What is it I'm doing wrong? Let me get back to my drawing board and figure out what are the things that I might be doing wrong, or reach out to somebody at that point. And the last, but never the least, is always prioritize yourself. This is something I think women lack in doing. They forget about their career when there is a dying project that they need to work on. They forget about what they want in their career when somebody comes and says that this is really important task and you need to be heads down finishing this for us right now. Yes, that is important, but your career is also important with that. Always have those conversations. Whenever you are having conversations with people whom you think can help in your career, make sure that you have time to talk about your career and not just about your current projects that you're working on. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. It sounds like my takeaway was just kind of a big communication, not just with others about what you would like to do and how you would like to grow, but with yourself as well.
Yes.
And I feel like that's really important. And for you to share that perspective, you know, it sounds so simple, but at the same time, you're right. Like I sometimes don't do that, where I have that kind of talk with me of, wait, what have I been doing? Am I growing towards the goals that I've established? You know, when I establish them, am I still keeping up with those goals? So I really like that you do that and you reflect.
Yeah, and it's a very natural tendency, right? We get bogged down so much with our day-to-day routine that we forget to take that step back. We are always tied up with the task and assignments and everything that we have to do, that we forget that, oh, beyond this we have a career to talk about.
That makes sense. Okay, so for one of our last questions, what are your words of wisdom for engineering managers? And are there any tips for success for women in this field?
Oh yeah, so for engineering managers, so I know that many people who are engineers would love to, like that next step to become engineering managers. Some of them also like to become like architects or even enhance their skills from the technology standpoint. But not all engineers, great, I have seen great engineers failing to be a good engineering manager. And I think one of the reason for that is they are not able to let go. So the very first thing I will say them to learn to let go, because we get so much attached to our code. We get so much attached to, you know, what we want. We get that love and bonding with our code that we can't let go. And I have seen engineering managers taking, being a manager and then taking that step back and still trying to, you know, help somebody or code or do some projects for themselves. And For engineering managers, it is, if you're the first time engineering managers, be prepared for that little awkwardness at first, because it is hard to move from a day when most of the time you are coding to a day when most of the time you are strategizing and planning what needs to be done next. You always need to understand that you are going to make mistake and be kind to yourself, because it is very hard to realize that people won't always agree with you and understand their perspective and change accordingly. So if you are a person who is ready to take feedback, you will be a great engineering manager, I would feel. And always be approachable, because if you're approachable, people will actually come to you and tell you what are the things that are blocking them, or maybe even give you feedback, which is something that I feel is very critical in this era. The next question you asked was tips for success for women. I actually have two. I have seen this, and I have done this myself, is don't wait until you can check all the boxes before you apply for a job. I have seen this, that most women will wait until they can tick all the boxes before they apply for a job, while at the same rate, men can apply for a job which they are 50% qualified for. Because according to them, if they are 50% qualified for a job, the next 50% they will learn in that job. But that's not the case with women. Women like to know all before they even get to it. And the second thing is, as I have been hiring for my own team, I have realized that, and statistically also it is proven that on an average, female candidates list 16% fewer keywords in their profile compared to the male candidate. We are very humble. If you have, for example, if you have worked on React.js, or if you have worked on Elasticsearch, but if you feel that, oh, I just did it for 6 months, so that's not like a skill I can say. No, it is. If you have worked on it, you know it. And you can prove it that you know it on the job. So please start adding your keywords, adding all the skills that you work. Because right now I feel our systems, they they rely on these keyword searches and now are inherently biased towards male profiles. And this is something that nobody can help. It is just, we can help ourselves by just adding those keywords.
Got it. Thanks for those pearls of wisdom. The big huge takeaway for me was, being approachable, being able to receive feedback and even give feedback if you have that. And the biggest one is just highlighting those accomplishments and being proud of those. And there's no problem with being humble, but make sure you do highlight those. And when you mean by keywords, can you elaborate a little bit about what you mean by keywords?
Yeah, sure. So this is something that I realized in my previous job, not in Headspace, in my previous job when we were all about recruiting platform. So any male candidate or any female candidate who is doing the same job in the same company, the system, or the job search engine is what we call it as, will pick up a male candidate over a female candidate when they are searching for any candidate who knows that skills. And the reason behind it is, if you look at any male profile, they would have explicitly mentioned what all they do. They would have they will talk about their HTML skill to CSS3 skills to React.js skills to any machine learning languages they might have used. Whereas a female candidate tends to not add all the skills that they know of. They will only add those skills which they are absolutely sure that not just absolutely sure that they know of, they will only add those skills which they feel they have the highest experience. For example, if tomorrow if somebody asks me which skill set you know the best, I have been an engineering manager for a while and I haven't been coding for quite a while. So for me, it is hard to just keep on saying that, oh, I know Node.js, I know React.js, I have worked on Golang, but all of these, I have pioneered Golang in some of my previous job, but I wouldn't say it out loud. whereas a male candidate will, because they did it at some point and now they know that maybe in next 2 or 3 weeks they can get it going and they can start coding in Golang again. Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I actually, it was when you were saying that, I was thinking about my experience, and I will have to, admit, I'm being completely transparent. Is like, I do admit that there are times where I won't say that I had that skill set unless I 100% know that today, if someone asks me, can I do it? I can't if I 100%. But if I've done it in the past and I'm a little, I would need a refresher. I won't say it at first that I would. And it's funny because I was just thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, I do that. Oh no, like I've had experience that is a skill set that I could just pick up and do a refresher, and that's fine. And I should bring that up, and have that and put that as one of my keywords. So yeah, no, it was that made sense to me, and I think after today I'll definitely change that and be proud of the stuff that I've learned. When I think about where I've come before and where I am now with the knowledge that I have, and in the roles that I've been in, I feel like I've come a long way. And you just reminded me of that, of all the things that I've learned, and I should definitely highlight on that. So no, thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's open up this up to the audience to answer some questions. I'll take a look at our Slido that we have. In case you want to ask more questions as we go on, you can vote on it. Let me just put it on the chat real quick. Okay, so let me pull up a question here. So the first one on the top I have, what steps would you recommend someone to take to prepare to enter this field? And is there anything specific to Headspace? So as a engineering manager, what steps would you recommend?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, being an engineer and being an engineering manager, they require different skill sets. So the very first thing that I would say is the leadership skill. It is a skill that we all need, whether we move to management or even at this point, if you continue growing as an individual contributor, I would say. So while it's an abstract skill, there are things that you can do currently in your career that can help you develop these skills. For example, in your current company, you can lead or organize an event, maybe an hackathon, maybe a coding event, maybe organizing a meetup. Once you start organizing an event, you would know what are the nitty-gritties, what are the things that are involved to, doing non-trivial things involving like several people end to end, understanding how we even plan all this an entire event that will help you in your future. And being in always try to take ownership of a problem area within your team or within your company, and it can be anything. It can be like a coding standard or interacting with customer. Pick what you want to do and try to take an ownership, but remember, make sure you are always doing it from finish. You're always finishing what you started, because that is a key to be a good leader. Because there will be many people in your organizations, and also I have seen this, who who do talk. They will do the talk. We call it as they talk the talk, but they never walk the talk. So you need to show that you can actually walk that talk. So always finish what you started. And the second piece to it is also like, how can you help your manager by addressing key things for developer happiness, because that is one of the thing that that is a role of a manager. Even if you are not a manager right now, what are the like too many bugs come into your production, or the deployment cycle is too slow. These are the small things that you can pick and tell your manager that I would like to fix it. I would like to come up with a plan how we can fix it. That will go a long way, because basically you're now helping your manager, because this is one of your manager's role. And that brings me to the third point is one of the key thing of an engineering manager is to be a servant leader. Like what we do is in our day-to-day task that we have is we are those invisible ICs who jump in whenever there is something which nobody wants to take, but at the same time that needs to be get done. Like we call it like the non-sexy stuff, non-sexy tasks. Try to pick on those tasks and try to help fix those tasks. And now comes like certain things that will help you understand how to give feedbacks. Always try to give critical or crucial feedback. Try to mentor. Give credit to others. It is very easy to take a step back, and it is sometimes it's really amazing when you get called out for great work. If you want to now think about the reverse, right? Call out others for the good work they have done. That's a trait for being a good leader. And once you keep on doing that, your leadership will look at you as a person who empathizes with others. And that is one of a quality that a good leader should have, to try and give credit to others. And if possible, if it is possible, if you have interns in your team, try to be the intern's manager. That is the mentoring aspect. And try to see how you can mentor, like pair programming, code reviews. Whenever you're doing code reviews, be very diligent about it. That will really help. Try to be also, this is something that I learned the hard way, is I always used to feel that management books are like, it never used to interest me, but there are some books out there which actually helps you to be an effective leader. Try to pick on those books and try to actually go through it and learn it. And whenever you're going through management books, it is very important to summarize what you learned, because once you read a book and then make a one pager of what you learned and then keep on going through what you have learned, that will help you build your muscle memory of learning leadership skills. Because we engineers are really good in coding, we are really good in analyzing and figuring out our data, but we never think about the leadership aspect of it. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks for that. It sounds like, really kind of stepping up um, to that management role if you'd like it. Um, follow-up question, you mentioned being a mentor to interns possibly. Are there any other like recommendations of how to build those management skills?
So as far as mentors are concerned, right, not always you will have interns in your company. So one of the things that you can do is like having one-on-ones with your developers and having informal one-on-ones with your developers, because you also don't want to step on your manager's shoes, but understand where are the pieces where they find things frustrating and help them with that. If you are a developer and if you're not, this will actually help you not just mentor some of your ICs, but also your manager to look at you for any critical tasks that might be there, because they know that you can take the team and rally the team with you. One more aspect to it is not just mentoring, but also volunteering to teach somebody. If you, for example, if you are learning something, you can volunteer to give a talk in your company itself about what you have learned in a specific technology. Then even if you want to push it further, then you can see if you can actually incorporate what you have learned in your current company or in your current team. That will go a long way, I would say.
I think that transition to a next question we have is that, you mentioned volunteering for things, whether it sounded like, if you wanted to learn something new, you would kind of volunteer to do that. So for the next question we have is that, do we need to have a versatile technical stack work experience to become an engineering manager?
Um, so one of the trait of a good engineering manager is they must know the technology well, and specifically the technology that their current team members are using, I would say. Because if you know that, then you become very credible. You can have the discussions with your engineer, your ICs, and give them your feedback. You also can transition maybe into a very strong mentor for them. So it's more like the engineering manager job is usually a balancing act, I would say, to get involved when needed and to take a step back when you think that your ICs got it and they know exactly what they are doing. So you would need to know the technologies, but in breadth, not in depth. What I mean by that is, for example, if I start talking about microservice architecture and how it can easily turn out to be a nightmare for any engineer, you might think that I'm a backend engineer. On the contrary, if today I even start talking about how weird it is that React 17, I think 17 is the latest version, 17 was released with no feature update. And it was just all about developer happiness. It was just about how we can upgrade React quickly. Now you would think that I'm a front-end engineer. And now I can even go further and talk about some technology which is DevOps related or infrastructure related. I know about these technologies because I have been reading what is coming, what is the next, what are like the latest and greatest things that are happening around. What is happening to our current architecture, or what are the things that are improving in our current technology that Headspace is using. That is why I know this, because for me it is very important that I know what is happening and what can be helpful for engineers in Headspace, and to be close to technology innovation. But not necessary I would know how to upgrade React at this point. For that, I would need to basically take a step back and see how things were done when I used to code. And then maybe I will definitely be able to do it. There is no three ways about it, but I will take some time for that. So when we talk about versatile tech stack, I would say you would need to know the breadth of all the technologies, not the depth at that point, if that makes sense.
Oh, that does make sense. There's a question in the chat by Sarita that is related a little bit to what you said in terms of what the stacks and what you're learning. So her question, their question is there any certification which would help us for getting selected for interviews, which is an important which is an important keyword for job search engines while transitioning from engineer to manager position? You know, do the stacks you use or the skill sets you use, you know, are there any certifications that would help you get selected?
Yeah. So having a STEM degree definitely goes a long way. Having said that, nowadays I have seen some great engineers and even engineering managers who have gone through some amazing boot camps. I know there have been React.js boot camps, there have been computer science boot camps out there, which really helps. And I wouldn't, I mean, with my current role as well as in my previous company, I wouldn't say that we per se look at any degree. We really look at that person's technical ability and how great they are when they are solving, how good they are with their problem solving skills, is what I would say. The second question you had was about what are the keywords that are used. Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, it is which is an important keyword for job search engines while you're transitioning from an engineer to a manager position?
Um, I would say leadership, hands-on engineer. And I'm not just coming up with keywords, but it's more, look at it from a standpoint of, if any person right now is looking for an engineering manager, if I'm looking for an engineering manager for my team and I am interested to hire somebody from outside, the things that I will look at is this person needs to be a really good hands-on engineering manager. The reason hands-on becomes very critical at that point is because I have never worked with you. So I need to be sure that you really are technically able to lead these technical engineers. So the keywords that I would, if I have to put the keywords at this point to hire an engineering manager for my team, I will say engineering manager, leadership skill, and my team right now uses React.js, Node.js, and microservice. I will even put those keywords along with that. And that really comes back to the point that we talked about women, the advice that we were trying to articulate for women engineering managers is make sure you are in your profile, you are adding all these skills that you have, technical as well as management skills. That will really help you grow in your career.
So taking with the skills, let's shift to traits. So Deepa has a question about what are the traits of a successful woman leader being in a male-dominated industry?
Oh, you would be surprised, but I personally feel that female engineering managers do very well than a male engineering manager. And the reason behind that is we are naturally very empathetic towards people, and being having that empathy your towards your people that you are managing is really important. That is one of the major traits I would say that you need to have as a as an engineering manager, along with of course your leadership skills um, and your technical skills. The three values that are really I would say the three values that are really appreciated in leadership skills are having that selfless drive in you to put others' career above yourself. Because right now, right, as an IC, we always think about our career. We always think about what is the next thing. Now, think about it as an engineering manager. You have to think about your career and you have to think about your reportees, your engineers also. So for us, it is very important to empathize with them and understand how you can help them move forward. And I think women engineers really do that job well. The second trait I would say is to be articulate and speak up about what you feel about a certain strategy, and that is being very courageous, because sometimes you also have to um, be when you are talking about certain strategies around your company or your team. You also sometimes need to talk, might you might have to go against some of the other leaders who are thinking things differently. We wouldn't say going against, we would say like having different opinions on that. So the two traits now we are looking at is empathy, and second is to articulate well in a concise way and speak up for the values that you believe in. And the third thing is being very curious about what's happening in other teams and other squads. Because one of the things that an engineering manager needs to do is bring up all the interesting work, or make sure that your team has a roadmap planned in a way that will interest your engineers. And you can really do it well if you are curious about what's happening around the company and not just your team. You're not just focused on your team, you're even focused around what other team members might be doing. And that way you can help your team members and you can also help the company.
So if you were last question, or I think I'll take like one or two questions, but kind of transitioning to that, what would you recommend aspiring engineers who want to become a manager?
So it's like it's more like, how would you actually like to foresee your career? Like, are you thinking about your career to be an engineering manager, and you're thinking about it more from a leadership standpoint? And if yes, then you have your answer at that point. I would always say that put your always try to learn and let go. Because if you want to be an engineering manager, you have to have that selfless drive in you to allow other engineers to actually take the forefront, and you being that um, lead, the slave leader who is helping them grow in their career. So for you, if you really want to be a leader, you have to learn how you are going to help others in their career. And always have that discussion with your engineering manager, I would say. It's because you need to understand where you fit in your organization, right? It's great that you already know that you want to be an engineering manager. For me, the moment you have already decided that you want to be an engineering manager, 50% of your job is done, because now you are on the track of your goal. You have set your goal. Now, the next thing is how you want to get there. So, the very first step would be talking to your manager, talking to your engineering manager, and coming with a specific timelines on what are the things you need to do to get there. Sometimes there might be a situation where your current company might not be able to provide that role. At that point, you have to look outside. Maybe you have to look outside. So that comes to the second aspect of it, is whom you're going to contact, right? Now you have to contact not just people within your organization, but also people outside the organization who are currently doing that role, to understand what it takes to become or to move to that company. One thing actually I should have mentioned earlier is engineering manager. This role is different in different organizations. Some organizations look for technical engineering managers. Some organizations look for people engineering manager. So you need to understand, or you need to make a decision for yourself where you reside, or where your interest lies at that point.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. That was, reaching out to different networks. Kind of, it sounded like creating your own type of support system and reaching out and finding your own mentor. There are a lot more questions in the chat, and I really, really wish I could go to them. But right now, I think we're getting a little bit close to the end of our time. I think I'll do just one more. If you were to name one person who helped you grow in the career, who would it be? And do you have any management books that you would say is are your favorites?
Yeah. So I wouldn't name that person because I haven't asked that person whether I can name him or her.
Fine. That's, yeah.
But I will tell you a story which kind of changed my life, the whole aspect of looking at my career, the whole aspect of me being very intentional, having this monthly check-in with myself. That's from in my previous company that I was one of my VP. The career that I have right now, if you go back and look at my LinkedIn, I have been a senior engineer for 3 different organizations, got promoted as a tech lead in 3 different organizations, and then jumped to the next organization back as senior engineer. So I was like senior engineer, tech lead, moved to a different company back as a senior engineer, tech lead, moved to a different company back as a senior engineer, tech lead. And in my previous company, one of my VP, I was just having a very regular one-on-one with him, asking about career goals and roles. And he kept on asking me, what is your 5-year plan? And I had a very candid interview reply that I always give everybody. I gave him that reply. He kept on digging further and asked me a question: why you keep on proving yourself again and again? You have been a senior engineer and been a tech lead in 3 different organizations. What is the next step? And at that point, I realized that I had that aha moment that I don't have to keep on moving to a different company thinking that I have to prove myself again as an engineer. I now need to take that next step, and the next step being an engineering manager. So for me, that person really gave me that aha moment that I am repeating myself. I am just having this circle of an imposter syndrome. And going back to the books, right? I have a couple of books that I have been looking at. There is usually a very long list out there. But there is one book that really helped me, and that was The First 90 Day, The Proven Strategies to Getting Up to Speed Faster and Smarter. That is usually, it is not an engineering book per se, but it is like a 30, 60, 90 plan, a 3-month plan that they have put for a practical guide of how to consciously focus on getting up to speed and faster. That really helped me. And then there are other books also out there which you can look at. Yeah.
It was, what was it again? First 90 days?
Yes. The first
Okay,
90 days, proven, I can type in here, proven strategies for getting up to speed faster and smarter.
gotcha. Cool. Thank you. Okay, that's actually our time. I know we went a bit over, so I thank you for staying a little bit longer. Thank you again for taking the time to meet with all of us. I'm sure everyone could agree with me that we enjoyed our chat today, and I appreciate again for sharing your experience. And thank you to everyone who attended our event for Shoutout Saturdays. A transcript of this interview, or at least a summary of it, will be posted. We'll post in our chapter blog sometime this month, maybe possibly. But just as a reminder, the concept of Shoutout Saturday series was promoting women professionals who want to share their insight into the tech world through overcoming obstacles, highlighting accomplishments, or tech industry advice. So if you enjoy the session and would like to share your career journey or know someone who would be a good fit, please reach out to us and let us know, and send us an email right there on our screen with the subject line Shoutout Saturdays or Shoutout Saturday applications. So thank you again, everyone. Have a great weekend. Thank you again, Swapna. Really, really appreciate it. It's been a great time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me.
No problem. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.